All right. I talk about this a lot in groups and on social media, but I don't think I've ever made a video talking about my views on video podcasting. So I'm going to try to encapsulate them here in about half an hour. Oh, God, this could be long. But let's do this. I am fresh back from vacation with some new glasses and a new mic stand. So this might be a little fidgety, but my ideas got them. I've so got them. So let's do this. A video podcast. Can a video podcast exist? Okay. For the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that video podcasts are a thing because debating on whether they exist or not doesn't really feel like it moves the conversation forward at all. Viewers, consumers, listeners are calling videos podcasts. Right or wrong, there it is. And they're the ones we want to connect with. So let's just assume that they're right. I mean, I understand the history of podcasting and I understand that there's a lot to unpack with all that. And I'm going to stop touching my microphone. There's a lot to unpack with all that. But for the sake of this video, what I want to say is when I say video podcast, my definition, this is not across the board industry wide as if there's one podcast industry anyway. Because, I mean, I think globally because I am in one place, most of my clients are in another place, and you're probably in another place. So I don't think about the podcasting industry as being in one place, and that's a whole other episode. Let me know down below if you want me to talk about the podcasting industry and what that possibly means. Okay, so what I mean by video podcast is that there is an audio component and there is a video component. And generally speaking, I'm talking about YouTube. I don't do video on Spotify. I personally do video on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching this over on YouTube, you might be watching it over on LinkedIn. Either way, do say hi if you're in the chat room at any point during this live. So I consider a video podcast a podcast that has an audio component, audio only component, and has a video component. It can be a talking head video similar to what I'm doing right now over on YouTube and LinkedIn, or it can be an image. I've done video podcast episodes where I have like I'm walking around a really pretty part of the city and I'm just using the footage from what I'm seeing as I'm walking around. And I've done different stuff like that. You can do a video podcast, believe it or not, with a static image and just have one picture. And that's considered a video over on YouTube because podcasting is changing when podcast has changed. Podcasts have changed since YouTube started to promote and support podcasts. And the reason why I'm thinking about all of this is because I went to an event last night online where YouTube was answering questions about the YouTube algorithm. And a lot of us were asking questions about the YouTube podcast algorithm and how that is different or the same, or does this affect it, or how do I do this? And do static image YouTube channel algorithms matter, or all kinds of questions. It was really great. I'm actually going to do a post over on LinkedIn sometime early next week once I collect my back from vacation brain and summarize a couple of things that I think were really important from that live last night. For me, it was last night. For North Americans, it was yesterday during the day. And so it really got me thinking about what is the difference between an audio podcast and a video podcast. And honestly, I was sick of having this conversation within so podcast support circles. I actually want to talk to more of you. So those of you that are watching, comment below. Do you think video, does it matter if a podcast is an audio or video format? Which one do you prefer? I mean, for me, I care to get my information out there into the right hands and ears and eyes in many different forms: audio, video, and text, and short video, long video. I know I've said video a few times. Um, hello, 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 hello over in the chat room. Thank you so much for checking in. Do let me know if you have a preference for audio or video podcast, whether it's listening or watching, because you can do both with both, to be honest with you. So I am the most curious in what viewers and listeners want, what they like, what they prefer, where they land. And honestly, I'm guessing it's going to be divided because I mean, we all like different things. I've been on YouTube as in different channel forms this almost the same exact time period that I've been podcasting. I started a language channel. It's called Changing Scripts. It has awful video quality. I had no idea what I was doing. I was walking around China when I lived in Shanghai, China. I was walking around the different cities that I lived in addition to Shanghai, and I was taking like videos of what I was seeing and I was trying to guess. I was learning the Chinese characters and I was guessing what I was looking at. And I had a terrible phone and a terrible sound quality on the phone, but I was, like, walking around, I was curious, I was talking to the essentially the people that would be watching later, and I was trying to guess what I was looking at and reading and things. And that was my first YouTube channel, is I was just kind of taking people along on the ride. And at the same time, I had an audio-only podcast, and that was about living overseas and things like that. And so those were the 2 things that I started at the same time, and I assumed I would have different audiences on both, and there was a little bit of overlap, for content and for visualness, of course, but honestly, I love both mediums, um, and I love text, I love newsletters, I love reading stuff, I like blogs, I love listening to some Substack newsletters you can listen to, so for me, I love there's a different I love all of the mediums, but there's a different way I consume each of them. For example, for audio podcasts, I'll tend to listen to them at specific times of the day when I'm doing something. For audio podcasts, I'll be, like, doing, like, household chores, or I'll be going for a long walk, or there are some podcasts I intentionally listen to when I go to sleep because it either calms me or it just feels like a good bookend to the end of the day. There are some video channels that I specifically watch or listen to in the morning or as soon as they come out because, oh my gosh, well, while I was watching Severance, woo! I was wa I mean, the season's over now. If you haven't seen any of it, please go watch Severance. It's an amazing movie over on Apple TV. And I'm not a huge Apple person, but I have to say they did well by this TV show. Holy cow, is it amazing? And I was consuming so many different video channels over on YouTube about Severance, like analyzing and deep diving into the different things that were going on there. Oh, that was so good, so good. And those I would listen to literally when they came out. My 2 favorite YouTubers that were talking about Severance, as soon as the video came out and I saw it, I would watch it. I had notifications for them too, which is neither here nor there. But what I'm telling you is I love all the mediums. So I'm curious what you prefer. So please do leave a comment in the chat room, wherever it may be. I'm guessing it's down below, but maybe it's side to side. I don't know. Wherever it is. So I was talking about you can have a talking head video like this. You can have a static image video. You can also have motion video where you have animations. You can have, like I said, you can have like you filmed something and then you're putting a voiceover on top of it. There's so many different things you can do with video. But what I don't find working for me and for some others that I'm watching and helping is when you take one and repurpose it for the other. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But generally speaking, if you take a video like this one, and especially for like a live event like this, and then you repurpose it into an audio only form, it's a little bit off. Like the vibe of the live videos, which I love. I love the energy that comes from these. Absolutely. But there's also a visualness, and there's a different way that we talk when we're talking to folks, and we're talking about things, and we might show things, and we might reference, like when I referenced moving my new mic stand, that's something that I don't want in the audio. I mean, it's not totally distracting, but it's just a different vibe. So what I'm finding out, the more I do audio and video and try to do them together and try to have them in a workflow that blends from one to another, the more I'm realizing that doesn't really work. Not only is audio and video two separate edits when you're editing your podcast, but I'm really, really, really starting to lean towards they're two different recordings. Now, how this can look like is it's got my workflow brain going crazy fast. And I'll just do this quickly because I don't think a lot of people are here necessarily for the workflowness today, because I wanted to talk more about what a video podcast is and and why there's so much stinking debate on it. Let's talk about that. What do you think? Should we talk about why there's so much debate on audio versus video podcasts? Let me know down below. Um, but workflow wise, a lot of folks will do like a talking head video, and then they'll scrape the audio and have that as their audio for their audio only podcast. That was a lot of the word audio. That's okay. And that can work, especially if you do a separate edit and take out the visual parts. But a lot of people don't do that because it takes more time. It takes more manpower or women power. It takes more people power, let's say. But what you can do, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is you can do the video first. If your focus mostly is on the video and the audio you want to have there, and you want to respect the audio listener's ears, but you don't want to do too heavy of a lift, what you can do is record, like when you're done with the video, shut off the video, just record the audio and do like a summary of what you just talked about. You could even, if you wanted to have like a really good thing, you could bring in ChatGPT, and you could first, well, outside of ChatGPT, get the transcripts for what you just did. And you can do that with an AI transcript thing within a few minutes. Transcript creator, I guess we're calling. I don't know what we're calling them. I use one every day, but I don't actually know the name of that type of AI. But use AI to generate your transcript really quick. Take that transcript, put it into ChatGPT, and tell it to give you like the top five, like a quick summary within 3 sentences, then to the top 5 points. Take those points. Do not read them. Please do not read them. But use those points to then create an audio version. Now, why I'm doing this video first, even though I think the audio is going to come out better in this workflow idea, is because your video is the testing ground for the audio. Whether it be a solo show like I'm doing right now, a solo episode like I'm doing right now, or if it's like a few people talking to each other, what you then do when you summarize it and then take out the main point and then talk about it again is you've already processed the conversation or the information, and you're reiterating it. And I bet you it would actually be better for the audio. So what you don't have in video format, so people can look at, you now have an even tighter structure in the audio format. So I would even go so far as to say, if you do this kind of workflow, do it live like this, then do the transcript. So 1 is record live, 2 is to get this transcript from AI. 3 is to take that transcript and put it into ChatGPT, ask it for a summary and for 5 main points, and give it specific things like that, 5 main points, because if you just say, give me main points, no, it's going to give you too many. 4, then record a new version using those points, but not reading them, for your audio podcast. And then obviously you'll have to edit the audio podcast separately, and it's not just a recreation of the video format. Now let's go backwards. If we're doing the audio and the video as two separate creatures, which I really think is probably better for both audiences on both types of platforms, let's go backwards. Let's say you record the audio. Let's say you're recording a conversation, because interviews are not the only way to do podcasts, but they are a very popular way. So let's say you have a conversation in audio only form and you want to bring that over onto YouTube. Okay, again, do the audio. Take the audio, and number 2 is the same, actually. Interesting. So get the transcript from AI. 3, put the transcript into ChatGPT, ask for a summary and the main points again. Now, the trick is, instead of doing the live video first and doing the audio second, or the audio afterwards, now what you're going to do is you're going to hop on maybe a vertical live on YouTube, and you're going to share the main points, the summary and the main points, not reading it, but from the notes that you got from ChatGPT and from what you remember, what just happened, because you're recording this immediately after recording it. I know it can be a little bit draining after the recording, no matter how energizing it is. It's also a lot of brain power keeping the conversation going and making sure that your guest feels comfortable and all those kinds of things, and you're ready to stop. But I encourage you not to stop. Or maybe do this early the next day, so it's still fresh in your mind, because you don't just want the ChatGPT summary, you want that combined with what you remember. And truly, the ChatGPT summary is there to keep you on point, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I will go off point. And also to give you a structure for when you pause and you're looking for the next idea, there are some on there that you can pull from immediately. So I'd say for that, from going from audio to video, start with audio, record it, get the transcript, ask ChatGPT for the summary and the main points, and then record, maybe even in live form, because vertical lives on YouTube right now are getting pushed, and pushed means that the algorithm, meaning that YouTube, is pushing them out to more and more folks. So do a half hour, 45-minute or so live, expanding on those points, not recreating the conversation, but talking about the conversation. Again, I'm using a conversation just as an example here. That's not the only type of podcast episode, but it is there. So, and if we're talking about videos on YouTube, which I am, that leans heavily towards the practical side. So what you could do is, after your summary and main points, and maybe a strong example or two, you could actually demonstrate something. Like if it's actually a visual, if there's a visual component to the conversation that something you can bring in and show people how to do that in the live video. You probably want to do non-vertical live if you're going to do a computer work screen. But if you're not doing that, and it's something that could look good on this horizontal, vertical, I always have to think about that, on this type of vertical live, then do it here. Because again, YouTube is pushing these right now. So by all means, take advantage of that push, right? So I would end it starting with audio and ending with the video. And in that case, the video could very much be better, but maybe not. The point is, it's not a better or worse thing. It's a doing different formats of the same information to really give the audience something they're familiar with, something they like on that platform, instead of just repurposing one to the other. I know this takes more time. It's probably it's definitely doubling the recording time, right? If you've got a half hour recording, a half hour video at the beginning of the first example, and then you're recording an audio example after that, and all the time in AI that you're doing those things, it is going to at least double your production time. Absolutely. Yep, it is. However, having your podcast presence in the forms that match the actual platform that they're on more than doubles your audience size, potentially. I mean, especially if you're talking about you have an audio only podcast now and you're putting it over in some sort of video form on YouTube. YouTube's a huge platform. So it could really, really exponentially increase people. And here's the thing. Hello, hello. Have another hello from over in the chat room. Hi there. So glad you're here. We're talking about audio and video podcasts and the differences between the two and how to do them and respect the viewers that are watching them. Because I have an audio video podcast channel called Geopats, Geopats. And I've got just the static image on there. But I'm really thinking I thought I sunsetted that project about a year ago. But I've been thinking about bringing it back with some new seasons. And if I do that, I could keep the audio on there with the static image, but I would really want to add some of those videos that I just mentioned, like summary videos, or if there's any practical things I could visually show people on the screen how to do X, Y, and Z, or what the things look like, or something like that. So have like something that matches more of what people are wanting to find on YouTube versus just copying it over. Again, I'm not completely opposed to having an audio podcast just copied over to YouTube. I'm not totally opposed to having a video podcast in audio form. Those do work for some podcasts. But if you are going to go to that effort, I'm really starting to think more and more and more. And this feels like a giant experiment waiting to happen because I live in the world of experiments. Is that I feel like you should probably do 2 versions of that thing to really, really fit the platform. Think of it like social media. If you take one post and on social media and you copy it exactly from Instagram to the one I don't use anymore that you might use, to Threads, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, and it's the same text, the same image or video in all of those places, it's going to do better on some than others because you've probably written it with one of them in mind and you just want to copy it to the other ones. It may get you some traction, but it won't get you as much traction as if you actually altered that social media post to the personality of that platform. Same with the audio and the video. They're different creatures. They're different creatures. And I've been repurposing video to audio and audio to video for years with some traction, but it's never quite taken off on either platform the way that the original thing that was recorded, whether it be audio on an audio platform, a video on a video platform, has. When I was doing Global Podcast Editors live panels back in 2022, 2023, those were really popular. Well, for the niche that it is for podcast editors globally, that felt very popular and it was very lively in the chat room. But when I've tried 2 or 3 different times to transfer those conversations, which has so much valuable information to them, over to an audio form. Nope. It never takes off, no matter how much sharing I do of them. And I think it's because it started out as that video platform, and the vibe and the momentum and the energy of it is video-esque, not audio-esque. I've even edited out parts of it. I've tried to like massage it to be more audio friendly for the people that are just listening, not to make them go to a video channel to consume it, to really see what we're talking about. I've done that. I've done all kinds of things, but it just has never really taken off in audio form, I think because it's so different. I know this seems pretty obvious. Of course, you're going to do audio and record audio and put it on an audio platform, and then record video and put it on a video platform. But the more and more and more that video podcasting gets popular, especially videos on YouTube, the more I see people copying their video audio or scraping the video audio and just putting that on an audio podcast and wondering why it's not really working. Because it's not really meant to be audio. It can be, And in certain circumstances, it might work. But in general, I think it might be better to record it separately, preferably one after the other. Ugh. But yeah. So I have to think about how to make this into an experiment, because I've also been doing this on this channel, Sane and Simple Podcasting. I re-added the podcast static image versions of the first 2 seasons yesterday, because when I revamped the channel a few months ago, they fell off, meaning I removed them because I thought I'm just going to have this be a straight video channel. And I realized, especially after listening to the YouTube folks last night talking about they never penalize people for having different kinds of mediums on the channel. For example, having an audio podcast on there, even static ones, having YouTube shorts, having longer videos. They're like, having different types of things on the channel is totally fine. They're never going to penalize you for that. Also, what they said was just really interesting, and I'll go into this in the video next week more, is that they said that if you have a bomb of a video that doesn't impact the algorithm. The algorithm sends, based on the information in your video and the text and the title, that kind of thing, and transcripts to a degree, they take that video and match it to what viewers are looking for. So viewers are looking for something, they searched for something, and they're trying to match the videos to that. So if you have a bomb of a video, it doesn't really figure into your algorithm. They're doing it individually by each video, which is nice because that's like experiment freedom to try many different things. And if it flops, it flops. But if it doesn't flop, and if you experiment enough and figure out what works, then your videos can get matched more because you're getting better at shaping that. And that's something that the audio podcast platforms don't really have, because they're not algorithmic in nature. You really have to know you want something. Apparently, even most people don't use the search function on their podcast app, which I find shocking because I use mine so much. But I am a heavy podcast listener. I always have been, even way before I was a podcast service provider. So, yeah, but I've always searched for stuff. In fact, oftentimes, if it's a non-visual thing that I'm searching for, I will search on my podcast app before I'll go to YouTube or Google or ChatGPT now, because I like to listen to stuff first before I dive into those mediums that make me use my eyes. So there's that. So to recap, because this has been a lot. For me, video podcasting means that there's an audio component and a video component, and they're connected. For me, just having a video show on YouTube isn't really a podcast. For me, I truly don't care about the distinction. I have it in my head, but I don't care, because for me, and I know I'm saying that a lot because it really does vary from person to person in this space. For me, what I care about are the connections. Am I reaching the people I want to get my information, my stories, my wisdom, my tips, those kinds of things? Are my clients reaching those people? Are my friends who are podcasting reaching the people they want to reach? That's what matters to me, is that they're reaching them in any medium they have the time and headspace to spread the information, not just the episode. And again, audio, video, and text, those 3. And I'm holding my numbers weird. I'm holding my fingers weird. 3. Those 3, audio, video, and text, I think is the holy grail of getting your message out. Whether you call yourself a podcaster, a YouTuber, a content creator, or a business person, or you just consider yourself a community leader, or you just consider yourself somebody who wants to share and connect with others. It doesn't matter what your label is to me. It matters that your message gets out there. And all of these ideas on different workflows, audio to video, video to audio, recording both to make sure that you project the message, the information, the stories, the experiences to people in a way that they want to consume on those platforms. All of that exists to connect people and share information and make this world, this crazy, crazy freaking world, a better place. I would drop my mic, but the last time I did that, it broke. So I'm not doing that. Sane and Simple Podcasting is the name of the audio version of this podcast, as well as the YouTube channel, as well as the Substack. So sane and simple podcasting.substack.com. I hope this gives you something to think about. I hope you make very conscious decisions on how you shape the content that you create to reach the people you're trying to reach. I'm doing these live once a week on Thursdays. Normally they will be 2 p.m. Copenhagen time over in Denmark, where I am living. But today, because I am back from vacation, it's a little bit later. So they will normally be 2 p.m. And I'd love to see you in the chat room. If you're viewing this afterwards, then please, please, please join me live then to contribute, connect with others, and ask me questions and all that good stuff. I will see you next Thursday. Sane and Simple Podcasting. It's not just a name of the project, it is a mindset. I want to help you keep your podcasting workflow and management simple enough that you can create your content to connect to others, enough to consciously create good content, but not for it to over the content creation and production and all of that to overtake. I want you to spend more time on connecting than on creating. Okay. See you next week. Bye-bye.